Hey everybody, it's Andrew Brown, and welcome to the AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp, where we are finishing off the last leg to DynamoDB, which is setting up a DynamoDB stream in order to update our message group. So looking at our pattern, this is basically pattern E. So the idea is that when we have an existing conversation, we're going to create a new message, which is associated with the message group UID for the two message groups that already exist. But we have to go and update those records. And so what we're going to do is use a DynamoDB stream to do that. And so Bako did that whole implementation. I haven't even done this yet. I mean, I've done streams before, but I'm just saying I didn't touch any of this code, so I don't know what we are in for. But he had time to write in the journal, but I didn't finish all of this stuff until just now. So let's see if we can make all this stuff fit with our efforts working asynchronously here. So here he wrote, DynamoDB streams trigger to update the message group, create a VPC endpoint for DynamoDB service on your VPC. Create a Python Lambda, enable streams on the table with the new image attributes, add your function as a trigger on the stream, grant Lambda IAM role permissions to read the DynamoDB stream events. In order for us to do this, we need to get our data onto DynamoDB, and we actually have to create a real table. So that means that we now have to go back over here and start doing stuff. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and create ourselves a, you can see I have a bunch of stuff from before, but get your environment up and running as per usual. And I'm in week 5 again because of what happened, but we want to do bin DynamoDB or DDB, create tables. But I also wonder, do we have to change the way we create our table? Because when we do this DB thing, we don't activate the create stream thing, as he said. So enable streams on the table with the new image attributes included. Okay, I don't know what that means, but let's go ahead and create ourselves our schema. So we'll do schema load. And I'm going to type in prod and see if we can do this against our production. So we go here and it says, when calling the create table, table already exists called creditor messages. So I think the reason it exists is because Bako's in my account and he already created it. So let's go take a look at what he's done. So I guess he didn't think that that might be a conflict for me, so that's okay. So we're going to go here and we can see that under tables, under CA Centrals, this already exists. Oh, looks like he inserted the items too. Okay. I think I would have been more wary to do that because I don't know the cost of it. Additional settings. Okay, so what we're going to do is delete his table. So we'll get it out of the way. And I'm just going to hope that this works. Delete all CloudWatch alarms, create an on-demand backup. No, I don't want to do that. Did it checkbox it before I did that? I hope it didn't. So now we've deleted that table. We'll go back over here. You wouldn't have to do that. It was just because I've done it, or Bako did it before. We'll go ahead and do prod. It spits out a bunch of stuff saying that it's creating the table. This stuff is not usually instantaneous, so let's go refresh. Oh, wow, that was fast. Provision 5.5, deletion protection is off. Normally I have to wait for these tables to create. Okay, well, heck. Maybe it's just like restoring the old one. I don't know. No, I mean, there's 0 items in it, so... But anyway, this is DynamoDB interface. I've been so disinterested to show you the UI because AWS is already working on an update to the UI, and I just, investing all that time. Like, this is the old UI, right? Then this is the new UI, and then there'll be another new UI, so they just can't help themselves. And this one's kind of okay. I just don't know why they keep changing it on us. So you said streams needs to be enabled. So if we go down here, it looks like we just can turn it on. And he said to do new image with new image attributes. So capture item level changes in your database. You can access them through change information. So what they're saying is that depending on your view type, this is when it will capture information. So we want to do it on the new image. Okay, like whether it's the new action or the old action, stuff like that. So that is now turned on. So that is one thing done. Create a Python Lambda function in your VPC. Create a VPC endpoint for DynamoDB service on your VPC. A VPC endpoint? Wouldn't that cost money, Bako? VPC endpoint cost AWS. I don't like that. You can create an AWS private link endpoint to enable private connections to that, but there's no free tier for that. Okay, hold on. I'll be back in 1 second. I got to go ask Bako about pricing on this. Okay, so I talked to Bako, and he's not aware of a cost of it, but I'm very skeptical of this. So I'm just going to tell you right now, let's watch out here because I cannot tell if this is like a private link thing. So the idea is that with VPC endpoints, sometimes they cost money, sometimes they don't. And that really depends on what it is that we're doing, right? So once we start using it, it has like hourly costs and things like that. So I kind of want to watch out. So we could say like types of VPC endpoints. I know it's in my course. I just don't want to pull up the slides. I'm too lazy to do that. And so I'm just trying to find the different examples. There are 3 types of points: gateway load balancer points, gateway endpoints, interface endpoints. The second type of gateway endpoint allows you to provide access to S3 DynamoDB. So that's the one we're using. You can configure resource policies on stuff. So all I want to know is, do gateway endpoints cost money? Do gateway endpoints cost money, AWS? There's no additional charge for using gateway endpoints. Okay, so Bako is calling them service endpoints, so I didn't trust him, but that's what they're called. So looks like we are okay. All right, so I was very worried about that expense right there. So what we'll have to do is make our way over to VPC, because that's how you'd create one. And probably already one that does exist here, but we'll just, on the left-hand side here, we are looking for gateway. They've changed this on me as well, but I know that where they generally are, so I should be able to find them. Gateway endpoints, where do we make these? They might also just call it VPC endpoints. Endpoints. Well, there is a tab down here. Yeah, and so Bako made this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Delete VPC endpoint. Delete, because we need to make this from scratch. And I just want to know, how do we get there without, it's right here. So VPC endpoints, you go there, we'll hit create. And we're going to say DDB endpoint. I guess he did Crutter. I'm going to put 1 just so that I'm not conflicting if the old one's still there. So we say, what do we want to connect to? Well, we're connecting to an AWS service. What is the service that we're connecting to? It's DynamoDB. So, and there it is. So we'll click that. We'll click our default VPC. Choose the route table, sure. Custom policy. What did Bako put for this? He doesn't say. Allows access to any user or service for this credential. I think this is safe to do. It's okay. So we'll go ahead and create that. And so now we have our endpoint. This one's called Crutter1. So it is slightly different. I don't think it matters in terms of the code because we're not going to be plugging that in anywhere. We do have to create a Lambda. And so he has the Lambda code here. Let's take a look at what he wrote. So we import Boto3. We have this conditions thing. I don't know what that is, but we'll take a look at what that is here in a moment. Are these even being used? Let's take a look. Oh, it is. Okay. And so Boto3 resource DynamoDB CA Central 1. This is our endpoint that we are using. I guess that's okay. Those are hard coded. I'd probably not hard code those. Lambda events. So here we get the PK and the SK. We check to see if the message starts with MSG, because basically the DynamoDB stream will trigger for every input. So we only care about when it's a message being created and not a group. And so here we are replacing that. So then we are only getting the group UUID, the message group UUID. That makes sense. This is the structure of event data that's coming in here. This is predetermined by DynamoDB streams. We don't have control over it. And so it's saying new image message, so get the message. And he's printing them out here. Then we get the table. We get the index name. Global secondary index. We never created a global secondary index. I mean, we're supposed to, but we never actually did make one. So that is something that's interesting. Data table.query. So we get the table and we query it. Okay, and so Baco's using, I don't like the syntax, but he's using this like this other way of doing it where you make the key expression and you do key equals this. I find that that's a little bit more cryptic, and there's not a lot of code working with that, but I don't know why he's using this one, but we might swap that out. Recreate the message group rows in SK value. So here we are deleting. So yeah, remember DynamoDB, you can't update like the SK. So the idea is that you have to delete it and recreate it. And so what Kirk was saying is that we probably should wrap this in a transaction. I did try doing transactions in the video that you could not hear me speak. It was very difficult. I'm going to leave that for now. And if this works, that will be good enough. But yeah, I'm not particularly fond of this part here. But the idea is that we have our items, recreate the message groups in the rows. So we should have 2 of them that we're creating, and it will output those there. But I mean, like, it's, yeah, if it's one message, let me just see here. I'm just making sure I understand this code. Data items. Oh, so here we're saying match. This would actually return 2 back. It would return 2 message groups back. That makes sense. And then we iterate through them, we delete them, and then we recreate them with the updated details there. Okay, so that Lambda makes total sense. We'll go ahead and copy this code. We're going to make our way over back to our AWS account, wherever that is, aws.amazon.com. And we will go ahead and sign in when it lets us here. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and create ourselves a new Lambda. So we'll make our way over to Lambda. And we will go ahead and create ourselves a new function. So Baco has one here called Crutter Messaging Stream. I'm going to just make one called Crutter Messaging Stream 2. Yours should just be 1. We're going to choose Python, whatever version we get, 3.9. We're going to use x86-64, even though ARM is a lot more efficient these days, but that's okay. We are going to need different kinds of permissions. So here he says, grant the Lambda IAM role permissions to read the DynamoDB stream event. So AWS Lambda invocation DynamoDB. I'm not sure if that's one we can just add retroactively, but I'm going to go ahead and say create a new role with permissions. I'm going to go down here to advanced settings, nothing that I care about. Connect your function to a VPC. We definitely want to do that, and then that will save us some trouble down the road. I'm pretty certain that's what we want to do, right? In your VPC, yeah. And we didn't do this before, so it's just kind of convenient that we're doing this now. I'm not going to do D. I know it's an A, so that's where we need to go. The security group here would be for the default one. That should be fine. We'll go ahead and create that function. Another way we could have created this Lambda was using the SAM templating language, but maybe we'll do that in another week here. So we are creating that there, and we'll go ahead and grab the code. And this, again, is in Journal 5, Week 5, Journal 5, if you're wondering where I'm getting this code from. We'll go ahead and copy this, and I guess this is kind of okay. Some of the stuff here. I'm surprised we're not setting any environment variables in here. I would thought that we might have to do something here. Okay, we'll go ahead and deploy this code. We don't have permissions that we need for this, so AWS has obviously put this somewhere, so we have to go find out where it is. Configuration maybe, permissions. And so this is the role. I'm going to click into the role, and we need to give it DynamoDB access. I'm hoping this one's predefined, but we'll go here. This one's called AWS Lambda Invocation DynamoDB. So waiting for IAM to work here. I'm going to add permissions and attach a policy. I'm going to search this and see if this exists. Hit enter, and it's AWS managed. So this is something that AWS provides. We'll hit add permissions. That's going to allow the Lambda to access or invoke DynamoDB. We're looking here, invoke function. We already have that. Describe stream, get records, list streams. So specifically so it can work with, provides read access to DynamoDB streams. That's exactly what we wanted. Okay, so if that's the case, that's looking good to me. There's no other major instructions. Add your function as a trigger on the stream. We have not done that yet. We haven't created that GSI, but we can create it retroactively. So over here, we have this as our GSI. And so what I can do is just make that in DynamoDB really quickly. I wonder if Bako updated our code. That might be something that he did. So like if we go into week 5 here, where is our code? Here. I'm just curious if he updated the those files. So if we go back a level and we go into our backend and into our bin and into our DDB and into our schema load, did he add in extra stuff? Yes, he did. So in here we have the message group UUID, and we're defining that global secondary index. So that's what we're missing in ours, even though we've provisioned ours. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and drop this table, which is kind of frustrating, but we'll drop it, which is totally fine. We'll say confirm. And then we will go back over to our DDB file here. Bin DDB schema load, and we will go over to here and we'll go grab this part here that we're missing in our attribute definitions. Schema load. So we need to have this one. Okay. Because that is where we're going to have the global secondary index on, and that's what we described about having a GSI on in the video with Kirk. And going back over here, we need to define our global secondary index. And this is something that we might have done, and then we commented it out, but now we have it. So we'll go here. It's not even commented out, it's just gone. Yeah, okay, so we'll go ahead and paste that in there. And we'll just put a comma on the end like that. And so that should create our global secondary index. So now what we'll do is, I'm just going to drag this over so it's not such in the way. We'll do bin DDB schema load. I have a syntax error on line 26. That's okay. Nothing a comma can't fix. We'll hit up. Ooh, doesn't like something else I did. Probably because this isn't equals. Is that what it wants, an equals? Yeah, so like when Baker wrote this, the params are different, so I have to change this around. This is my fault because he was working with code that was different. So basically what we have to do is a bunch of this. Or do we? No, we don't. Because these don't do that, so really, sorry, we don't have to do that. That doesn't make sense. Well, I mean, sorry, this one does like that, right? So maybe it is just this part right here, right? Do a space like that. Oh, you know what? It's because it's not supposed to have quotations around it like that. There we go. That fixed that issue. Great. Okay, we'll hit up. Cannot create pre-existing table. Well, it shouldn't exist, but we'll go back here and delete it one more time. We'll try this again. Oh, we got to type in prod. There we go. And so now we will go to production here. We'll refresh this. Okay, and so when Bako did this, he was creating all the activities and seeding the data. I'm not going to do that because we're not doing a batch right, and I don't want to cause any spend for you. I don't think it would cause any spend, but just in case it does, we're just going to manually create our stuff ourselves. So we're not going to seed it on the server. So in CRUD messages here, we know that we need to go back and update or turn on the streams again. So we'll turn that on for new images. We probably can configure that in our setup there, but I'm just not sure how to do that right now. I'm going to go back to VPC and just make sure that that endpoint is still there. We'll give that a refresh. It is still pointing there, so that is A-OK. So we are in good shape. We want to set up the trigger here in DynamoDB. So back in DynamoDB, we should have, here, we can create our trigger. So we'll click that. We'll choose our function. Ours is number 2, messaging stream, yes. And the batch size, I don't know, 1? I think it'd be 1. Turn on, because you can make it more efficient, because like sometimes the messages come in batches. Well, I'll leave it as 1. We'll turn the trigger on. And so now that trigger is set up. So now what we need to do is hook up our application to use production stuff. So I'm just thinking about this here. We'll go over to our application, and we'll have to switch that over there. So in our Docker Compose, we have this AWS endpoint. All we have to do to use this is comment this out. We will do down. And we will do up. And we'll give it a moment here to think. I'll be back here when this is done, okay? All right, so it actually opened the tab automatically for me. I didn't even open that myself. So now it's started back up. And so if we give it a refresh here, this was imported as seed data, which doesn't make sense because it should be running. Oh, well, that makes sense because that is the SQL database, which is local. But over here in our messages, we don't have anything because this is now production. So let's see if it works with the production database. If it was this easy, that's going to be great. So we want to send a message to Bako. And so let's say, hey, Bako, how are you doing? I'll hit the message. And, well, it didn't work, but let's go take a look and see what happened. I thought that would just work. We are in the home stretch, though. If we can get this to work, we are done DynamoDB for the week. Token is expired. Of course it's expired. I should have known that. At least it was not a real problem. And yes, we will fix this thing at some point here along the way. We'll sign in. That looks great. We'll go to messages. I'm going to go up here and say a new Bako. Testing 1, 2, 3. Haha, look at that. So now when we did that, it created the message groups. And notice here that it is displaying stuff. So I think it actually is working correctly. Let's go take a look to see if that Lambda was triggered. The way we'll know is if we go to the maybe monitor tab and we go to the logs. It might show the logs right here. I don't know. Yeah, it does it right in line. I always click on the view in CloudWatch logs. No data found. That's totally fine. We'll just open that here for a moment and see if there's any log data because it's supposed to trigger these. Ah, there we go. Did it work? Well, I mean, we are getting data. It says, when calling the query operation, user is not authorized to perform DynamoDB query on results. Okay, so it doesn't seem like it has all the permissions it needs. Is it doing retries here? Okay, so looking at Bako's instructions, it doesn't seem like we have all the permissions. So what I'm going to do is go to Lambdas, and I'm going to go take a look at what he has for permissions, because maybe there's something that he has that we don't have. So we'll go back to CRUD messaging stream, and we will go over to configuration. You wouldn't have this. You're just watching me look at what Bako said on this. And if we go into our, or into this role, which again, you can't see this, only I can see this. It's in my account, not yours. I can just see if he has a permission that we are missing. Yeah, he did not tell us to do that. I don't think he told us to do that. Let's see here. I mean, I guess he means this here. Okay, well, he kind of told us, but didn't say exactly which one we want. We could probably lock this down even further, but because we're giving it full access, this Lambda, so if this Lambda ever got compromised, wouldn't be that great. I'm not going to pare it down because I don't care. Maybe later we'll do it as a security practice. I just don't feel like doing it. It's just always stuff that we can do later. Just don't tell Ashish, okay? So we'll go here, attach a policy. And we're going to go ahead and add that permission. And so that permission's now been added. And so what I'll do is I'll go back to the stream here, go to our monitor, go to View CloudWatch Logs. And I just want to delete these so that we can see what's going on here. I just want to see it successfully work. I mean, like the next one will be the next log, so I'm not too worried about it. But I'm going to go back to CRUD here, and now I'm going to go and message Londo. So I'll go messages, new Londo. And we'll say, there's nothing preventing us to going to Bako again and running again. So there's still a lot of things we need to fix here. But I'll do this with Londo, and that one creates. And now what I want to do is go back over to here, give this a refresh. We might have to wait a second, so I'll be back here in a second. I just want to wait for this to populate, okay? All right, so I've waited a little bit here. Let's give it a refresh and see what we have in our log stream and see if those errors have vanished. And now we're getting the reports that we want. I am seeing client access denied, which I thought we wouldn't. What? Okay, so it doesn't have delete item access? Come on, Lambda, you have it. Did I have to redeploy this Lambda or something? Let's go to our configuration. Oh boy, we'll go here. How does it not have delete item access? It has full access. Did I not attach it or something? No, it is there. Delete. All right, so it has a lot of stuff in here, but it doesn't have delete item. All right. Is there any other operations it doesn't have? Error. And neither query. So this one that we have attached, is this the same one that Bako added? Amazon DynamoDB full access. Well, what did Bako use? Because this doesn't seem to be the right one. We'll go to permissions. We will view this here. I mean, like, yeah, so I don't like the one that we've attached here, this DynamoDB full access, and it doesn't really do what we want it to do. So what I'm going to do is delete this here, remove. And can I just add one inline so that we can just basically do what we need to do here? So create an inline policy. You know, we should create a new one, but I'm just going to create an inline one. And we are going to say what we want access to. So we want access to DynamoDB. I thought they redesigned this too, eh? I could have swore they redesigned this page. Well, whatever, we're using the old one. DynamoDB is what we want access to. We need to be able to query. We need to be able to delete. We need to be able to put, probably. Let me just check what we're doing here. We're going to go back to that Lambda, wherever that is. And by the way, we should probably take this Lambda and put it in our code base here so we have it for later. We've been storing our Lambdas in this directory here. So this one is, what is this called? CRUD messaging stream. CRUD messaging stream. .py. We'll go ahead and paste that in there. And so we have a put item. We have a query. And we have a delete item. So those are the three actions we actually really do need. And so I'll go back over to our inline policy here. Put item, yep. We'll go down here and look at resources. You have not specified a type of index or table. So like for the table here, we want to, this is going to be called, this is in CA Central 1. So we just go here and say CA Central 1. And then here the table is called CRUDder messages. Okay. You have not specified an index, so there actually can be an index here. So here again, it's CA Central 1. The table name is CRUDder messages. We'll go over to DynamoDB and take a look at the indexes here. So we'll grab that name there. And we'll go back and paste that in there. We'll hit add. And so is there any request conditions? No. We'll go to the JSON. I'm going to copy this so we don't have to find it later. I'm going to just go here and make a new file here called, new folder here called policies. Just so we don't have to find this again, file. And we'll just say lambda CRUDder messaging stream policy.json. And we'll paste the contents in there just so we don't have to go find it again or play around with it, okay? So now we'll go back over here to our policy. We're going to review that policy. We're going to create that policy. Oh, geez. I want the name here. Policy. Lambda, or sorry, DynamoDB. Okay, that's fine. We'll create that. And so now we have that inline policy attached there. And so hopefully that gives us the right permissions. In order to create new items, we'll have to delete old ones. So let's just see if we can do that in the interface here somehow. Explore table items is probably the way that we do it. And here we have our records. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete all those items and say delete. And so now what we can do is go back to our application and try this again. So we'll go to the top here. And we'll say messages, new Londo, and I'll just type something in here and hit message. And that will look like it has created a message, which is pretty good. And we'll go back over to our Lambda and we'll go to monitor. And I prefer to open up CloudWatch logs. I'm just so used to doing that now. And we will see when the new log comes in. It doesn't always appear instantly. Okay, that's fine. Oh, I think this is for Bako. So we're in the wrong one here. We want to be in ours. So we'll go back over to Lambda here and just make sure that we're in the correct Lambda. Hopefully we attach the permissions to the correct policy or to the correct Lambda. So we'll go to messaging stream 2 here. We'll go to configuration. We'll go to permissions. I'm going to open it again, just make sure that our custom inline policy is attached here and it's not the wrong one. Double, triple checked. It is. So we have that stuff there. And this is actually the proper way that you're supposed to do it. And I think that if Ashish was looking at it, he'd be very proud that we did it the correct way. And so going back over to our configuration, our monitor here, I'm going to open up the view watch logs tabs here. And this time I'm hoping it works the way we want it to work. So going down here, this looks like this is the latest execution. Please tell me there are no errors. We're getting different stuff. It says error key, new image, line 16, message, new image, stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think this worked. I think Bako thought it worked, and because he has the wrong permissions, there's no way that worked, but that's okay. I do that all the time where I just like get code together and I'm like, yeah, it probably works. You'll have to tweak it. So we'll just work through it ourselves here. It's not that big of a deal. So we'll go over here to Crutter messaging stream, and it's erroring out because of the record that's coming in here. So what I'm going to do to make our lives a bit easier is I'm just going to go ahead and print the event data here, and we'll just say event. And so that's going to help us better understand what is going on here, because I just don't know what this data looks like. So we will go and copy all of this contents here, copy, and we'll go back over to our application, and we will go to code, and we will go ahead and paste this in here. And I'm going to go ahead and deploy those changes. And now that that is deployed, we'll go back to our app. We'll say new, and we'll try Baco out this time, and we will write a new message here, and we will do that, and we will go back over to our CloudWatch logs. We'll go back up a directory. We should have a third one in our messaging stream 2. Yours is just going to be called 1. I'm going to refresh until that appears. So I'll be back here in a second when it does appear, okay? All right, so we've waited here long enough. We'll give it a refresh, and here's our third one here. And so we are printing out the event data so we can better see what the structure is. So I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to bring it into our code so we can have it as an example. I'm just going to paste it here. I wonder if there's any way we can beautify this. So we'll say JSON format. There's always this terrible website to do it in here. Oh, I mean, this one's okay, actually. Usually I get a worse one. I want to copy the contents out of here. Copy to clipboard, I suppose. We'll go back over to here. And, you know, I sometimes will paste the stuff in here and then comment it out so that I can see the structure. It just makes things easier to find stuff. So I'm going to go here and do this. Great. And so what do we have as our data? So we have a record here. This is a remove event. We'll just split that here. I mean, this is the one that it failed on. So we'll go back over here and we'll take a look at our code. And it says key error new image line 17 in the Lambda. So, I mean, we're not on line 7 anymore, but I'm sure we can figure that out. I'm just going to bring that over here. And so it's looking for new image. Where's new image in here? New image. So we have records, 0, so that'd be this, DynamoDB, and then new image. And notice here, there is no new image. I mean, the stream type view down here is new image. So what gives? The event name is called remove. Okay. Let's take a look at what other information we get, because this might have called multiple times, right? So like we have event data here. We have it again here. So this one's remove and this one's remove, because we do have 2 removes. There's another remove. This event name is called remove. This one's called remove. There's nothing with new image in here. So, yeah. Let's go back a directory. Did we trigger more stuff here? Stream 2. Because the thing is that when we delete records, it's also going to go here and trigger this Lambda, right? So yeah, I'm not 100% sure what we're expecting here, because we're not logging out that data. All right, well, we'll go back here for a second. And so what I'm thinking is that this is a remove event for when we deleted data out. And so this isn't very useful for us. So I think if the event name is remove, then it's not something that we actually want. So what I'm going to do here is, well, first I'm going to do this so I can see what's going on. And I'm going to go and say event name. And this is going to be event records 0. And this is not necessarily true because it could return a batch, but we said batch of 1, so it'll run it for each one actually. So that's okay. And then in here, we'll do event name. Oh, give me a break. This frickin' copy, it's so bad. Okay, so we'll go over here, and I'm going to do a paste here. And then it's going to be if event name equals remove. Then we are going to return early. And we're going to say, we don't need to return. Just say print skip remove event. And I'm just going to, I guess, pass the event ID, I suppose. I mean, we don't really need to, but I'll do it anyway. Because we're logging it up here. So actually, you know what? I'm just going to just put this here, keep it simple. And so this will be our new Lambda here. I'm going to go ahead and delete out all this stuff because this is actually useful. This is actually for a remove event. So I thought that was for our actual event. We'll go ahead and copy that. We'll go back, we'll go and deploy this. We're going to go to our DB stream here, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh the table. And I'm going to just go ahead and delete these records. So that's going to trigger this Lambda because they're hooked up. I'm going to go ahead here and just delete these here. I'm just going to wait a moment for those other ones to appear and just make sure that they're deleted, okay? All right, so yeah, just see these records created. So I'm just trying to keep this nice and clean so we can just keep track of what we're doing here. And so now we should be able to go back and try this again and see what the output is. And it might still not work, or it might work. It might have been working this entire time, but maybe those arrows are just superficial for the deletes. So we'll go here and hit the message here. I'm going to go back over to here. And I'm going to just wait for the CloudWatch items to roll in here. And it already is here. Do we have anything erroring out? Nope. Yeah, so I guess it was just that one edge case where those are being deleted. And so this actually has been working correctly. So yeah, there you go. We finished DynamoDB. I'm going to go commit my code, so we'll do that really quick. We'll just go here and say, done DynamoDB, hooray! I'm sure it will crop back up in the bootcamp. So yeah, there you go, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.